so we're gonna do these ranking the head coaches. Should we go one by one? Or should we do them all? What'd you think, Craig? Do it just how we did it?
I don't know.
I don't have that much. I have like a sentence or two.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of ranked them and then.
Yeah. I just ranked them and just told a sentence of why I think they are ranked as high.
What do
you think, Craig?
I guess we can just
go through them all.
Yeah, I think it would make sense to just go everybody say they're 8.
Yeah. So. I did my 8 and then I did a sentence. Like just one sentence of why I think it is. Nothing big. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we can start with you, Craig.
All right. So my first team, I switched everything up a little bit. I did the Raiders, my number 1 team, just because they went to the playoffs last year. If they bring back Derek Carr, they can build around him, and they still need to get a GM, like I said before. And it's Vegas. Like they got a stadium, a new stadium. They got a good fan base there. So I think if they can just build around Derek Carr and figure out what they're doing with the head coach, surprising playoff team. They can rally around the coach, whoever that's going to be, and I think they'll be solid. The Broncos, my number 2. The only thing I think they really need is a quarterback. The defense was 8th. They have a good running. They have a running back in Williams. Obviously, the ownership is who knows what that's going to be. That might push some coaches away, but if they can get the team bought out by Peyton Manning or John Elway or whoever's going to be before the season starts, I think they can get a coach in there in place. Hopefully, it'll be an offensive coach because they need somebody on the offensive side. The Dolphins are next for me. They started out 1-7, finished 9-8. I think they need the offensive guy as well, just to help Tua. Maybe he's the guy for them. I'm not sure. Maybe if they get Watson. Then maybe
they're not getting Watson, bro.
I don't know.
They're committed to Tua. They've already, the owner said it. The GM said it. That's why Flores isn't there, man.
I'm not buying it. But anything, maybe.
Could be posturing.
Okay. I just go with you. Say they're committed to it. Then I think you still need to get an offensive guy in there to help maybe nurture him, mature him, and get him up to speed. He missed a lot of games this year, but it's South Beach. Like, who doesn't want to live in South Beach? It's no tax or it's no state tax. So
weather's good. Weather's great. We're down. This time of year is beautiful.
You might have to go to Buffalo and New England in the winter time, but majority of the time is spent in Miami. So next is the Vikings. 8-9 last year or this season. They have a really good quarterback who has one more year. Not really good. He's a good quarterback. He has one more year on his contract. He's going to get paid a lot, $35 million.
Jeez.
So they have a Pro Bowl running back. They have 2 good wide receivers. They need to fix that defense. I think they'll be solid if they can just get some defensive pieces. And every game this year was close, except for the exception of 3, and they were 2-1 in those games. Oh, they also need a new GM. Also going back to the Dolphins, they have, I think, the most projected cap space money of any team in the league. So my 15 would be the Bears. Obviously, I think they need an offensive guy there as well to help Justin Fields. The O-line needs fixing. The wide receivers need to be addressed because Allen Robinson just wasn't a number 1 guy this year. But the downside is they have no first round picks, but they have a lot of cap space. So you can kind of bring some pieces in there. Jaguars on my 6th. They have a number 1 pick last year, number 1 pick this year. They need to figure out the overall culture there because that whole Urban Meyer thing was just a mess. They have 10 picks coming up in the draft this year. They need to figure out the offensive line, figure out the defense. They can get some more pieces around wide receiver wise around Trevor Lawrence, who had his best game of the season, last game of the season. So it's kind of hard to say they're going to build off of that coming in the next season since it's so long. But, better late than never, I guess. The Giants are next. They haven't really had a coach in there for more than 2 years at a time, but they have some talent, I guess. Daniel Jones is whatever. Saquon Barkley, he's there. He's hurt a lot. The O-line needs some help. They need to get a new GM, obviously. But it's New York. It's a big market. They're going to bring in players. It's a big draw. They got 2 top 10 picks, one at 5, one at 7. So, and they have 9 picks overall. They just don't have a lot of cap space, but they need to get rid of about $16 million to be under the cap. And just looking at how they finished the season, their last 6 games, they were outscored a combined 163-56. That's basically 27 points to 9. So it's unacceptable. The Texans are obviously last. I think the way they did Dan Cully was messed up, but he was kind of dealt a short hand there with that whole Deshaun Watson thing, and then Tyrod Taylor gets hurt, and then you bring in a rookie quarterback who I think overall, the team with that exceeded expectations, even though they only won 4 games. But whoever takes over this team is going to inherit a bad roster. And Lord of the No draft picks. And building off what they did last year, they had 3 draft picks. So, this, like I said, there's the uncertainty with Watson there. But the Texans, they do play in a division where I guess the best quarterback is Carson Wentz, maybe Ryan Tannehill. But I mean, neither one of those guys are like on the level of obviously of Tom Brady or nothing like that. So you need to, if you hit on a quarterback eventually, or maybe get one in free agency, who knows? I mean, I don't think they're going to be any better than 4-13, but maybe they'll be more competitive. I don't know. I did put an asterisk by this one because of Seattle. They finished 7-10. They still have Pete Carroll there, but obviously he might not be there. Who knows? I think he'd probably stay, but if he doesn't and Russell Wilson stays, then obviously you have Russell Wilson to build around. Offensive line definitely needs help. The defense needs to be a little bit better. So, but those are my top 8 teams and a little extra asterisk team.
All right. I'm going next. Mine is very interesting. I'm just looking up some information because I heard from a little birdie that he could. Ooh, okay. Okay. So, first I have the Raiders. One word, Derek Carr. I know their division is tough. Denver quarterback situation is still unsolved. And listen, Justin Herbert is a great quarterback, but is the coach for him? You don't know. So Derek Carr gets a good head coach. I think that's good. And it's probably going to be the head coach and the GM. And they made it to playoffs this year with their roster, so they have something. 2, this one is probably very surprising, but I'm going to go Chicago. I know that their defense is old, but they have Justin Fields. They just hired Bill Polian as a consultant, so they're probably going to bring in, some pretty good guys. I think Bill Polian is decent. Besides saying Lamar Jackson is a receiver, he's made some good picks. So I kind of, I can see him, making the moves, and they're gonna push their shot at, an offensive minded head coach. The third one I have is Denver. Now the only problem is ownership, right? They don't know who the owner is. Could be the Mannings, or it could be John Elway and the partners he with, which I think both are Denver staples, so wouldn't matter. And they have a lot of draft capital, a great roster, and cap space. So if there's a quarterback that's going to be moved, they're probably the best place they could go. The fourth, I have the Jags. Trevor Lawrence, James Robinson. People don't like Shah Khan, but I think he has a lot of patience. We've seen in the past. When ownership has a lot of patience with coaches and GMs, it's a good sign to me. it means that they're willing to give people a shot, and their division doesn't have a consistent winner. One is the Colts. They don't know what they're going to do with Carson Wentz. Are the Titans really scary? Right, and then you have the Texans, who we'll get to them later. So, I mean that's an intriguing job, right? So number 5, I have Miami. Listen, they have a young defense, young franchise quarterback. The owner loves Tua. The GM loves Tua. I know you don't buy it, but that's why Brian Flores isn't there. They're committed to Tua, so they're going to bring somebody in with Tua. So I think if they're committed to the quarterback, if you believe in Tua, you're tied to him. Hey, at least 5 is the Vikings. They got Kirk Cousins. They got a solid young team. The only problem is Kirk Cousins is only there for a year, so he could be a stopgap quarterback. But they are a patient head coach and franchise. I looked up who they had. Dennis Green was there for 10 years. Brad Childress there for 5. Mike Zimmer was there for 8. So they don't just hire and fire coaches, and they're pretty good. They're good franchise. Number, I think I've done everybody. Blah, 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 blah. Yep. Now I'm getting to the bottom 2. The Giants, terrible owner, not a good roster, no GM. They have low draft capital. Maybe they could get Wilson, but they're. That's all I have to say. I've nothing else I can say. I can't say anything. They're terrible. Texans, even worse. Toxic. That's the word I describe them. A dysfunctional franchise, and that's all I have. All right, Corey. Them 2 are bad, man.
The top opening I have is Denver. There are questions about ownership, but I think even with the question mark at quarterback, everything else is there. They've got a lot of talent at the skill positions. They've got a couple of good running backs, a solid offensive line, a really good defense. They just need a quarterback, and you don't even need a top tier quarterback. You just need a decent quarterback, and they'll be able to win games. They're not a team that's like often quick to fire. Like they fired McDaniels quickly.
He was ridiculous. I heard he was terrible.
Yeah, there were mitigating circumstances in there.
Yeah.
They've had a record of success of late as well. I think everything's in place for a coach to succeed there. The next I have is the Vikings. They need some work to replace some of that defense. They have the pieces in place offensively, and you're potentially in a position where if Aaron Rodgers does leave Green Bay, you're probably the front runner to win that division next year. So there's still plenty to be determined on that opening, but as it stands today, I would list it at number 2.
Okay.
A month from now, that could change if Rodgers is committed to Green Bay, signs an extension. You also have a situation where you could be in a position at this time next year that you just need to blow up the roster and start over, in which case, if you're a head coach, you're probably getting fired in a year or 2. So it's a risky one, but there's a lot in place today. Number 3, I have the Raiders. It is just hard to overstate how important it is to have a franchise quarterback in place. Derek Carr is a franchise quarterback. I put them below 2 teams, especially a team like Denver that's still looking for that franchise quarterback because of some of the issues with the owner. You have Mark Davis, who is facing the organization facing some issues with unpaid taxes and an investigation there. You also had Mike Mayock not get fired until it was found out that the Raiders were lining up GM interviews while they still had a GM in place. So when you have that kind of dysfunction and everything at the ownership position, that's going to maybe give a coordinator some pause and some concern about taking that job, because are you really going to get a fair shake? Next, I do put Chicago.
What's that, 5 or 4? 5?
4.
Okay.
4. I think it does need to be an offensive guy, even though you just fired an offensive guy. But you traded up, you got Justin Fields. I think you got to get a guy that can develop him and do a lot better job than what Matt Nagy did. They're going to need to add some pieces. Who knows if Allen Robinson comes back? If he doesn't, you've got Darnell Mooney and not much else at the receiving core. They've got a couple of tight ends at least, but having a young quarterback in place that you can build and grow with is, a really attractive opening. And that's why at 5, I have Miami, because Tua's there. Who knows if all of their talk about backing Tua and wanting to build around him is all talk and trying to, adjust their trade leverage position, because everybody knew they wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson last year.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got pieces in place in there. Jalen Waddle is a phenomenal young receiver. You've got who could potentially be a franchise quarterback. You've got a solid defense. So I think that a coach coming in has a lot to work with. Next, I will go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, just because you have Trevor Lawrence. And when you've got Trevor Lawrence and the number 1 pick this year, that's going to be an attractive job. There's a lot of talk about Shad Khan as an owner and dysfunction with the organization. And it's been a franchise that has been bad for a while. Yes, but that should also lower the expectations for you. The expectations are going to be insanely low after Urban Meyer last year.
Yeah.
And I think you are set up where you are going to have 2 to 3 years of being able to not necessarily even have a winning record.
Yep.
Because of what you're taking over. So expectations management for head coach can be a big deal when it comes to trying to build a winning team.
Yep.
So
I agree with
you've
that.
got the quarterback in place. You do have a few wide receivers there, and you have low expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So next, I have the Houston Texans. Look, it's a roster largely devoid of talent. I think it says a lot when going into the season. Nobody was expecting them to win more than a couple of games, and at week 1, they didn't have any rookies starting. That's not good. Bill O'Brien royally screwed that franchise.
Yep.
But I will say they may be okay at quarterback. It sounds like Deshaun Watson is open to staying and coming back if Brian Flores is brought into Houston, or potentially going elsewhere with Flores. He wants to play with him for whatever reason. But Davis Mills, I knocked that pick as much as anybody last year. Didn't look that bad this year. He looks like a guy that you could potentially build around and build a winning team with. And I think even if Deshaun Watson does stay, you spend a 3rd-round pick on Mills, I think you can at least get a 2 for him this offseason for a team looking for a quarterback. So you would increase your return on investment. You'd have a higher return on investment. So the roster is going to need a lot. I put it so low because you have to have concerns from ownership that you're not going to be given a fair shake. Hiring Cawley was a confusing choice, and then after seeing him do actually a pretty good job, firing him became a confusing choice. So there's a lot of questions about the top of that organization. So that's why I would put them pretty low. And last, I have the New York Giants. Yeah, they got rid of Gettleman. That's good, but
he retired. That's the thing. Were they going to get rid of him? Nobody knows. Probably.
But you look at that roster, and you've got Daniel Jones. You've got a quarterback that's been around that long, and you still have a giant question mark on him. that almost says all you really need to know. You spent a top 3 pick on a running back who hasn't been able to stay on the field and isn't playing at Adrian Peterson level to justify taking a running back that high. You spent massive money bringing in Kenny Galladay at wide receiver, who got you 0 touchdowns on the season. You drafted a wide receiver in the first round who didn't really do anything for you. So you spent a ton of resources at the position and still have nothing. It's a mess. It's you take that job. I think the roster's in a position where it's probably going to take a couple of years to improve. You're getting brought in with probably an expectation to improve on Daniel Jones, and I think a head coach might the next head coach is probably set up for failure there.
Oh man. So right now the Giants like the Bills assistant general manager. And if he goes, Brian DeBall probably goes there. But here it is, right? They drafted 2018, Saquon went second, right?
Second, okay.
They could have had Josh Allen and Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb went.
30.
They drafted Will Hernandez, and then the Cleveland Browns drafted Nick Chubb in the second round. So they could have had a Nick Chubb, and they could have had Josh Allen. Wow, isn't that something? Or if they wanted to prove their line, they could have got Quentin Nelson. Anyway, all right, guys. Last segment. You know what time it is, Craig? Yeah, favorite segment, man. It's the Who You Got, and this is the playoff edition, so it's gonna be real intense. Mo texted me his are crazy. So yeah, he has Buffalo winning. Shout out